Welcome back to the channel. We're back in our Spider-Man Commander deck profile with Madam Web Clairvoyant. For 4 and 2 blue, you get a 4/4 where you may look at the top card of your library at any time. They may cast spider spells and non-creature spells from the top of your library, and whenever you attack, you get to mill a card. So we have plenty of ways to make sure that we have instants on the top of our deck to be playing during every player's turn, making sure that we could always have a counter spell up in order to counter our opponent's spells. Ways to just benefit off of playing during our opponent's turns and casting non-creature spells. This one you do have like a couple different ways you could build it. Initially, I tried building it like as an artifact theme deck. I realized it's kind of just like a worse version of Memnon for like that. So I think the instant sorcery like synergies you get with this deck are gonna be a little bit more fun. The mill is also nice this way. If you do notice like, oh no, there's a land on top and I already played my land, you just get that instead. You're going to mill it, and hopefully you run into another instant. It's also, you could only cast spells from the top of your library, so you can't play lands from the top. Just a thing to note there. But overall, that's the general overview of the deck. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Arcane Signet. She is 6 mana, so we want to make sure the mana to cast her. Mind Splice Apparatus. Instant sorcery spells cost 1 less to cast for each oil counter on this, and you get an oil counter every turn. So we want to make sure that we have some cost reduction here, just to make sure we can keep on casting this instants and sorceries during our opponent's turns. And it's also one that we can cast on our opponent's turn just to begin with. Sapphire Medallion for some cost reduction, Sky Diamond for that mana to be able to cast our spells, Soul Ring for some additional mana, Sword of the Animus to get those lands out, Dot Vessel for the mana, and Wayfarer's Bauble for some mana. Then for our creatures, we only have 8 in the entire deck. We have Archmage Emeritus. Only reason we run most of the creatures is because they benefit off of non-creature spells, but this one allows us to draw some cards when we cast our instants and sorceries. Illuge allows us some cost reduction for the first instant sorcery spell we cast each turn. We're trying to cast our instant sorceries each turn, not just during ours, and we can do that thanks to Madam Web's ability. Well, she doesn't give them flash though, so you can't cast your sorceries during your opponent's turn. But still, giving that cost reduction, at least 1 blue less, could probably be the difference maker for us. High Fate Trickster, allowing us to cast our spells as though they had flash, meaning that we can now cast our sorceries for flash. Hullbreaker Horror, whenever you cast a spell, choose one. Like I said, we're trying to cast a whole bunch of instants during our opponent's turn, and this is whenever we cast a spell. We'll just keep on casting spells, keep on bouncing our opponent's stuff back to their hand. Liar, Disciple of the Drowned, spells can't be countered, meaning that we just keep on going with our game plan. And each instant sorcery card in your graveyard has flashback. Flashback cost is equal to its mana cost. So, allows us another way. Basically, we have 3 hands. We have the top card of our deck, we have our actual hand, and we have our graveyard thanks to this card. Murmuring Mystic, whenever you cast an instant sorcery, get a blue bird. Helps us just have something to protect ourselves. Having only 8 creatures is a little bit dangerous sometimes, especially when you're countering people's spells and they're just like, I don't like that. So make sure you have a bird to protect yourself. Say No Tolerance, Sky Summoner, getting a 2/2 blue drake right in the bird. And Wavebreak Hippocamp. Whenever you cast your first spell during each opponent's turn, get some draw power, getting your hand as well as your top of your deck as your hand, like we said. Then for our enchantments, we have Omniscience. Cast spells from your hand without paying your mana cost. We have a lot of draw power, so like I said, our hand is still our hand. That's still a place we cast a lot of instants and sorceries from. Ristic Study, allowing us that additional draw power. Shark Typhoon, we have some high mana value of spells in this one, especially like we run like all our 8 different sources of ramp, so like we can get around to it at some point. And then Wizard Class, allowing you to get a little bit of draw power and some counters onto your creatures when you, cast your instants and sorceries. Onto our instance, we have Aether Spouts in order to return all creatures. For each attacking creature's owner puts on the top or bottom of their library. Basically, the second version of Aetherize. We just run Aetherize in too many decks. This one just seemed more fun. One more mana, but given how mana costs 6, we're gonna need some time to cast anyway. Offer You Can't Refuse for a counterspell. Arcane Denial for a counterspell. Archmage's Charm lets you counterspell, but also you gain control of your opponent's Soul Ring for a turn. And target player draws 2 cards. You can also use from draw power if you want as well. Blue Sun Zenith, target player draws X cards. Allows us to draw some cards, potentially allows us to deck our opponents out if we have enough mana for it. We're not going to have enough mana for that, by the way. Brainstorm, draw some cards, decide what we want on the top. This way we could determine the order that we're casting with Madam Web's ability. Consult the star charts. Another way to look at the top cards of our deck. We already know what's up there, so like just look at the top card, decide if you want it. If not, look at some more. Keep on going. Counterspell for counterspell. Cryptic command. Counter target spell. I like to do it. Or you could tap all creatures your opponent controls in order to swing it with Madam Web for a whole 4 damage. Cyclonic Rift for a board wipe, essentially. Divert Disaster for another counterspell. We have a lot of counterspells because, like I said, we want to cast as many instants during our opponent's turns for those creature abilities so that we could just swing in with a bunch of birds. Engulf the Shores. Return to their owner's hand all creatures with toughness less than or equal to the number of islands you control. That would be our creatures as well, but hopefully we don't have that many creatures. Evacuation, return all creatures to their owner's hand. Another board wipe. Keep on just disrupting what your opponents try to do. They try attacking with you. Nope. Back to the summoning sickness. Factor Fiction for some more top deck manipulation. Putting someone to your graveyard, but still. Getting those cards into your hand helps you have more of a hand and more of your second hand. Flow of Knowledge for some more draw power. Frantic Search for some draw power, plus discarding some cards. Also untapping that mana so you get another instance of casting it instant. High Tide for the extra mana. Long River Pull. Well, did you guess it? It's another counterspell. Oh, and that's it. Another counterspell with mana drain. Mystic Confluence for another counterspell, but you also bounce a creature or draw a card. You also choose the same ability like multiple times for some reason. You could draw 3, I guess. Mystical Tutor in order to get one of your extra turn spells out of your deck and into your hand, so you can actually have a way to win the game. Negate for a counterspell. Opt in order to decide what you want on top of your deck, or if you want in your hand. Pongify for some removal. Pull from Tomorrow for some draw power. Rapid Hybridization for some removal. Refute for a counterspell. Snap for another source of blink. Bouncing your opponent's out, getting in their way just that much more. Sublime Epiphany for another counterspell. Swan Song for another counterspell. And Unwind for another counterspell. Like I said, a lot of this deck is play, wave break, Hippocamp, pass. What's that? Play land, pass. And then you just sit there with your counterspells that you cast on the top of your deck because your opponent's like, what's that? Only 2 cards in hand and you only have like 6 mana? No, that's still 6 counterspells off the top of my deck, potentially. Anyway, Amanatu's Augury. Another way to get some cards off the top of your deck, cast them for free. Capture of Xingjiao, our first extra turn spell, because this way you keep on tapping those lands, keep on getting extra turns, keep on going with our plays. Curse of the Swine for a board wipe. Also, in there, you can like just attack with Madam Web 6 times, and you won the game. Because when you board wipe your opponent, you're going to need a way to actually win the game if you take it all as turns. Flow of Ideas for some extra draw power. Cards, Temporal Sundering, an extra turn for yourself. You also do target player takes an extra turn, so you don't need to do it yourself. You also need to control your commander to do this stuff. Mnemonic Deluge. Basically copy your extra turn spells, taking even more extra turns. So, copy it 3 times, that's 3 extra turns. Ponder, another way to decide what's on top of your deck. Solve the equation in order to get your extra turn spells into your hand rather than be on top of the deck. Temporal Manipulation for extra turns. Temporal Mastery for an extra turn. Temporal Trespass for, what's that? An extra turn. Yep, that's right. Time Stretch for some extra turns. And then Time Warp for an extra turn. So overall, game plan of the deck, I'd say would be counter your opponent's stuff until they don't want to play the game anymore. And you're just sitting there taking your extra turns playing solitaire by yourself. But overall, that's the deck profile there. Thanks so much for watching. This video is a bit of a shorter one. Kind of like the amount of time that Madam Web spent in theaters, right? Dun, 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 dun. Thanks so much for watching, though. Have a great rest of the day.